Tim. Welcome to Watchbox and thanks for logging on. This evening we replace hype watches with hot watches. We survey unscratchable watches for your wrist and we chat live. All of this plus your viewer wrist shots from around the world. Spare thought for those who provide these pixels. Check out thewatchbox.com, now redesigned with over 3,000 pre-owned and vintage watches live. I prefer the indies, you might prefer the group brands. I like modern, you might like vintage. It's all there. The ultimate in luxury watch window shopping. We have Blue Shirt Buddha, Edward Ledden of Sweden. We've got Marco Barsi, Enrique Cassiano. We've got Mr. No Date, Nolan Reed, Mez9, Joe Pinto from Louisville, Kentucky. We've got Nolan joining in from Rocket City. Alex O. Hey Alex, you're in the show. More on that later. Greg E. joining in from Abington, Pennsylvania. We've got Eric S. in the box, Christopher H., Marcus T. from Germany, Ethan Davis, Dave Opencard, Gene H., Sam K., Joe Tyson from Apex, North Carolina, Randy Reeves, 121 Click, and Jorge N. Guys, I'll do my best to acknowledge all of you in time. Okay, well, we file into the chat box because we did miss a week, and I felt bad about that. Tech issues, please. All apologies, but it was beyond my powers. A moment of reflection. On YouTube, I used to think that the way to summon maximum YouTube views, especially in the watch space, was just to title every video Rolex and blanket the internet with the five-pointed crown. And well, beat that drum until it breaks. But here's the thing, I was searching for 1970s hard rock over the weekend on YouTube, as usual, because I live on this platform, and I discovered that Ted Nugent now hunts pigs from helicopters, and he made a video about it. And this jet-fueled porcine snuff film has more views than anything I have ever recorded. Maybe that's because Ted has answered the age-old question. What would happen if we created a cinematic crossover between the worlds of Apocalypse Now and Babe? Well, now we know. And 500,000 views later, we have the definitive answer. So hereafter, I shall divert all of my YouTube efforts towards a crossover of, I'm going to say, Charlotte's Web and Full Metal Jacket. 500,000 views, here I come. All right, I've just wasted 2 minutes of your time. Let's jump straight into watches. Viewer wrist shots number one, now that we're all here. Wolfgang K. of Austria, a big fan, and I'm a big fan of Wolfgang because he supports all of my social media, gets us started with his super clean Glasuta Original Senator Panorama date. Rick R. braves the waves, boating in Wisconsin with his Watchbox bought white dial discontinued Milgauss B on a perfectly matched rubber B strap. Alex O. and his newly arrived baby Gunther shared the JLC Master Compressor Memovox, passing it from one generation to the next. Congratulations, Alex. Marcus of Germany impresses with his GPHG winning Kudoka 2, looking good in the fatherland. Adam C. of the UK shares his Zenith Pilot alongside a historic Lola T70 Mark III endurance racing sports car. And then we've got Kieran T. capturing a spectacular fading light his and hers shot with Cartier and Rolex in yellow gold, and that might be the Daytona dial of our times. Very nicely done. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. All right, jumping straight in, replacing hype watches with hot watches. There are a lot of overhyped watches right now, especially on watch social media, and I kind of get the feeling that it's killing the hobby. Not killing it dead, but kind of deadening the fun, and definitely taking a little bit of, I don't know, the joy of discovery out of the hobby, because really the joy of discovery is why we stay in it. It's the watch we never knew existed, the complication we couldn't imagine, the artisan who does something we could never see from a big brand, or an independent who succeeds against the odds. Vintage watches instead of new. It's all of these things. But the problem right now is people are fixated on maybe 3.5 brands and 8.5 watches, almost all of them in stainless steel. So let's take a look at some of these hype watches and then replace them with suitable surrogates. Let's start with the big one, the Rolex Daytona. Okay, I'm just gonna say this, guys, don't pay triple retail for a used watch. It is never smart, unless you've just got FU money and you don't care and you want that watch on your wrist and you don't care how long you have to, I mean, frankly, there's no how long you have to save. If you can pay $40,000 for this watch when it's $13,150 new, you don't have to worry about saving. But for everyone else who might think, I don't want to wait 2 years to get my watch, and I don't want to save 2 years to be able to buy it used, let's take a look, because prices, while they're all over the map, they really are in the mid to high $30,000 range. And that's just a ton of money for a Rolex Daytona. It's a fun watch, but it's not that much fun. So, for 35 grand, here's my best pitch. I think you should just consider spending less than half that money and getting the new 2021 Bulgari Octo Finissimo Chronograph GMT. This might finally, after 7 years, be the Octo Finissimo we've been waiting for. It fixes all of the earlier problems. The earlier models were too light in titanium, so this is steel. The earlier models were too simple with time only, so this is a Chronograph GMT. The earlier models were not lumed, so this one is. And the earlier models were not swimmable, but with 100-meter water resistance, batter up, or perhaps I should say flippers up. This is everything you want in a Bulgari watch that costs $16,500. It looks awesome, and the Octo Finissimo is a sub-brand within Bulgari that is going places. Every single year brings a new breakthrough, and while the perpetual calendar might be the novelty from Bulgari this year, I think this is the Octo Finissimo that most of us would rather wear. Plus, if you do buy it for $16,500, it's going to leave roughly $18,500 left in your bank account, with which you could buy an honest-to-God vintage tritium dial 1990s Zenith El Primero powered Rolex Daytona in two-tone. Yes, you are well into actual Rolex Daytona territory with the change left over from that Bulgari purchase. And unlike the current generation Daytona, which is just being built and built and built and is not yet discontinued, the Zenith watches are very scarce. Production limited by Zenith's movement capacity, not by Rolex's. And because condition is king when getting a vintage watch, and a lot of folks aren't going after the two-tone Daytona from the 90s, you can get a fantastic example, box papers and sales invoice, with a bracelet that feels like it's never been worn and a case that's never seen the refinisher's wheel. All of that plus this GMT chronograph from Bulgari, which I should mention is fully lumed, which makes a big difference for sports watch fans. It's 100 meters, but the caliper BVL 318 is really the clincher. Hand-finished column wheel chronograph with a peripheral rotor made of platinum, and they pulled that system from the automatic tourbillon. They could have just taken the automatic system from the standard Octo Finissimo automatic and stuck a chronograph module on it. No, they went with the peripheral rotor, so in the donut hole inside the movement within the winding system, that's where they stuck the chronograph. This is the perfect Octo Finissimo, and I cannot think of a better way to spend your Daytona money while leaving more than half of it intact to buy an actual vintage Rolex Daytona. Let's see what you guys are saying in the box right here. Okay. This is DeHill07. Tim, do you guys have watch books and catalogs in the Bala Kenwood or Philly location? I would like some reading. We've got some catalogs, and we've got old catalogs, so if that's what you want, we've got plenty. But in terms of actual texts that you can take home, maybe some trinkets from the brand that they give us to give out, but definitely not voluminous tomes from the likes of Pucci Papaleo Editore or John Goldberger. No, we don't have those to give out, but we do have them on hand if you just want to stop by and read. Let's see what else is going on. We've got Mark S. We've got Wolfgang. He saw his wrist shot. I'm a happy man. Cosmic Child finally catching a live chat. I am very happy about that. Anytime you guys can tune in live, you've only seen me recorded, this is the show, and you're making the scene. I appreciate that. We have a question from Justin D. Any thoughts on the new Chanel Monsieur Superleggera? I love every one of the Monsieur de Chanel watches. They are fantastic timepieces. They are good value for money, but unless you are absolutely dying to own it now, buy pre-owned. I'm warning you, that's the way to go. You just got to trust me on this. Think pre-owned Breitling, and you have the general idea. What else is going on? We've got Abdul saying, I like the Octo, but it is a bit too thick for my taste. That new Octo GMT Chrono is 8.75 millimeters. Remember, the Daytona, which is not stout by any means, is about 12.3 millimeters thick. I think you need to give that Octo another chance if you think it's too thick, because there's not a whole lot under that in the world of complicated automatic winding sports watches. What else is going on here? We've got Kashavit Finally making the live chat, we've got Lloyd Kerr joining in from Maryland and Monkey See Production from Chicago. Mick in Florida, his location speaks for itself. Audemars Piguet. This is the brand that invented hype. Rolex might have perfected it, but this is the brand, and possibly the watch, that invented it. So, Audemars Piguet 15202 ST, the Jumbo. We know it's in its last year. Patek made a lot of noise about this being the end of the steel 5711, and they were rewarded appropriately on the auction scene. More on that in a moment. But this is also the last year for the 15202. Now, there have been other Jumbos. There's been the 14802. There was, before that, the 5402. The 15202 has gone through 2 generations from 2000 to the present. So there have been changes in the core Jumbo Royal Oak collection over the years. But no one really knows what's coming next because they're promising the retirement of the JLC-based 2121 caliber in this watch, which means for all intents and purposes they really are changing it to something we haven't seen before. We don't know what the Jumbo is going to be in the future, but we know for now the market for this watch starts at about $100,000, which is too much. This is a watch that just a few years ago was selling for $25,000 to $30,000. It hasn't changed, which means you should not be writing 3 to 4 times the check to own it. So, may I propose a complete unlike substitution? Sometimes we speak of like for like. For instance, you replace a Daytona with a Bulgari, or a Patek with a Vacheron. Now I'm going to tell you what you can get for your $100,000. It's not like this. And thank God for it. You can get an honest-to-God grand complication. At Audemars Piguet, a grand complication is defined as no less than a chronograph, a perpetual calendar, and a minute repeater. IWC goes a bit better with automatic winding and an aventurine glass moon phase. All of that in a wearable 42 millimeters in platinum. Absolutely no compromise on this opus launched in 1990 and built through the end of 2009. Now, only 50 pieces were made per year per metal. It was offered in platinum and rose gold, so you have some choices, but there are not many of them extant. The minute repeater was designed for this watch by a pre-Audemars Piguet Renoir Papy. Kurt Klaus himself designed the mechanically programmed perpetual calendar system, and of course the base is a Valjoux 7750, but upgraded from 25 to 75 joules. So you can call it both a manufacture movement for all intents and purposes from IWC, but also a universally serviceable base movement that will take the scratches, scuffs, the bumps, the slings and arrows of life on the wrist. It's not fragile. All of that for the price of an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo. And frankly, if we can jump back to the prices for this watch, this honest-to-God grand complication can be picked up for a little bit below $100,000, leaving enough money in the kitty down the line for a factory service and a trip to the spa in Schaffhausen. That is where I would spend my $100,000 on a watch. And if I ever do break the bank, the piggy bank, Ted, it will be this, if I'm spending 100 grand. All right. FP Journe and the Chronomètre Bleu, a rare hype beast in the dress watch category. This watch is neither stainless steel nor a sports watch, which makes it an anomaly amongst watches that are somewhat overrated and overpriced in our moment. I cannot think of too many other dress watches that fall into that category. It is a nice watch, in tantalum with a lovely reflective blue dial. It is extremely handsome, and all in tantalum with a rose gold movement. It is satisfyingly weighty. That said, this watch launched in 2009 to give people a point of entry into the FP Journe brand. It was never intended to be what it is now, because these have become $100,000 watches as well. In fact, these have become $100,000 plus watches. All of which is to say, you have a lot of choices at this price point, including some spectacular indies, including one who was a master watchmaker for FP Journe before he struck out on his own in 2009. And of course, I speak of, well, we're going to go to Ludovic Balloir. Ludovic Balloir launched a watch called the Halftime. And this watch has it all going on. In platinum for $100,500, I have to say, all things considered, this is an absolute monster. It's GPHG nominated. It has a retrograde minutes scale. It has a jumping hour. And not just a jumping hour, but you can see that all of the numerals are mangled until they jump into the aperture up at 12 o'clock, at which point the half time becomes whole time and you can actually read the numeral conventionally. This is a monstrous feat of micromechanical precision and imagination. And I will even go so far as to say that it has a gorgeous caseback that in every regard surpasses what you'll get from FP Journe in the Chronomètre Bleu. That's not to say there aren't any Journe watches finished like this, but at that point we're speaking of Grande Sonnerie, the Astronomique Souveraine, high-end stuff. This is the basic watch from Ludovic Belloir. That, the halftime and the upside down. Two great watches from Ludovic, and I recommend them. I would also say that, remember, this guy's pedigree is impeccable. First, he worked for FP Journe as a master watchmaker on the high complications, and not every Journe watchmaker works on the high complications. Second, he designed the Harry Winston Opus 13, and when you're an Opus series designer, that means you're up there alongside Antoine Preziuso, FP Journe, Christophe Claret, Grubel Forsey, Urwerk, Vianney Halter, let me throw in Chronode, Agenor, Frédéric Garinaud, and Grubel Forsey. Okay, so that's good company. Let me jump back a little bit because I think I also buried the lead. The watch you should buy instead of the Chronomètre Bleu, really you should buy this instead. You should have bought this, come on guys, $24,300. It's $2,000 less at retail than the Chronomètre Bleu. You can easily find it. There are many options. This dial, which is made of aventurine glass over a silver base, and I mean sterling silver, kicks the butt of the CB. As nice as the CB is, this is better and scarcer. And you should be able to score this thing for less than retail, which leaves a little bit money for tax, VAT, and shipment. That would be my choice if you don't have $100 to spend on a blue-dialed sports watch. I love Ludovic, but at the end of the day, this is both the value proposition and probably the smart alternative. Let's see what you guys are saying right here. Okay, Emily has joined in. Emily Newsom, a good friend of the show, as well as my Facebook group, Talking Time with Tim Mosso. If you're not there, you should join. We've got interviews coming up this week, big ones, David Walter and Josh Shapiro, and I'm going to be posting them to the Facebook group first. We have Pete's Timepiece Safari joining in from Croatia, staying up late with me in South Continental Europe. Aaron, yo watch nerds, yo Aaron, thanks for joining in. We got Jim Millett, we got Caliber YQG, John N, and William Rizzo. Right here we have Burning Mr. B. I wanted to see what he was saying. For $100,000, I'll take a Handwerkskunst Lange. Possible? Possible, but not likely. I think it's going to cost you more than $100 to get into any of those. And then Abdul saying, the Lange is so beautiful, it is definitely the choice to go to. And then right here we have Monkey C Production saying, at the $100,000 level, Patek has quite a bit to offer. That's true. You can go for something like the 5212A weekly calendar or get the 5235R regulator, both with a lot of cash left over. And remember, those are watches that you can pretty much get. Things like the Nautilus, those are scarce. Now, let's speak of Patek Philippe, because you brought it up, I hinted at it. This is the watch we have to discuss because it's the most insane of our candidates tonight. The hyped watch that we must replace. Right here we have a watch that sold at Antiquorum in Monaco just in the last few weeks. A Nautilus 5711-014 sold for €320,000 before the buyer's premium, which is getting darn close to 11 times the price of this watch at retail. It costs $30,000 or $34,890 at retail. Someone paid $320,000 in euros and then had to pay a buyer's premium. So for that, let me tell you all the things you can get, because you're not going to get just a watch. You're going to get an entire garage and safe full of toys. Starting with a JLC minute repeater. Platinum, titanium, it doesn't matter. You've got your options. You can get the master minute repeater, which includes a 15-day power reserve, a fully hand-finished movement, both a power reserve indicator and a torque meter assembly, and I should mention this thing has a crystal gong because the strikers hit a gong welded by shellac to the sapphire. This thing is a monster. You can hear it above the din of a train station, and that's just the first thing you're getting if you sacrifice your €320,000 5711. You're also getting a Vacheron Constantin Overseas Generation 3 self-winding. Silver, black, blue dial, it doesn't matter. You can get any one you choose. All of them for under $30,000 pre-owned. The most highly developed and value-laden high horology integrated bracelet steel sports watch you can buy right now. And we're not done. Going back to Patek, you can have a Patek Philippe 5070R. You can have a Patek Philippe 5070J. You can have a Gene in white gold. All of these for around $80,000 pre-owned. You can't quite swing the platinum, but again, we're not done with our goodie bag just yet. In addition to those three absolute Galactico watch references, you can get a Bentley Brooklands Coupe with 530 horsepower. It takes 100 hours to stitch the interior and 130 hours to braze the roof. All of that with a twin-turbo 6 3/4 liter hand-built Crew V8. Now you see why it's stupid to pay €320,000 for a Nautilus. All of this can be yours. And probably should be if you've saved up that money for one watch. All right, what's going on right here? We have lots of friends in the box. Edward Ledden saying, white gold JLC Duomet chronograph is my pick, and it was mine as well, as I laid down my own money for that watch and owned it for 4 years. Rick Goffman saying, and a Bentley, and that is a fact, and a Bentley, and a great Bentley. Many folks will say the Brooklands was the last true Bentley because it was the last Bentley built on a shared Rolls-Royce Bentley platform. Others might say the Mulsanne. We can disagree, but you can get either one of them used as part of that suite of goodies. What else is going on here? Mark S. saying he finds the Overseas has 2 rows of hash marks on the dial, which is too busy. That's all right. You've got options for your $30,000 in sports watch money. We've got Mikkel Z joining in from Switzerland. Thanks for staying up late with me. And what else is going? We've got Keystar G60. Tim, can you name any out-and-out dress watches that have a ceramic case? As a matter of fact, I can. We were speaking of the Monsieur de Chanel. You can get not one, but 2 different versions of the Monsieur de Chanel, which is a lovely jump hour retrograde, a collaboration between Romain Gaultier and Chanel, and you can get 2 different versions of that watch with ceramic cases, and one of them has an enamel dial, so I would recommend that. And then we have Andrew G saying, hey guys, please don't berate me for spending $500,000 on my Nautilus. If you spent $500,000 on a Nautilus, I hope you and Captain Nemo are driving some sort of submarine and not wearing a Patek Philippe, because that's what you should get for your $500,000 in Nautilus money. What else is going on right here? We've got Enrique saying you can probably get a new Mulsanne for that money. The Mulsanne's kind of dear when you buy it new. 400 grand, that's a lot of money. It's been out of production for a year, so you'd be lucky to find one. But if you can probably get some discounts. Still, if you want to get a Mulsanne for like 150, 125 grand, it's going to have to be used, and it's not going to be a Mulsanne Speed. All right, question from Rabatea asking, and I hope I got your name right there. I'm sure I mangled it, but I'm trying to acknowledge you correctly. What is your favorite micro brand? Here I am defining a micro brand as a low volume manufacturer, not like a small company that sells Hong Kong made $200 watches. I would say among small brands, I really like Garrick, I really like Sartori Biard, I really like David Walter. I think you need to take a look at Josh Shapiro. He's not making the movement, but he is making the dial, and he's from the school of Roger W. Smith, so he knows of which he speaks when he makes dials. I would also say Reservoir of France. They're designed in France. They're made by Telos SA in Switzerland. I love their Longbridge British Racing Green. You can also get it in Palladium, which is very cool. So Reservoir, you get a triple complication, a jump hour, a retrograde, and a power reserve. And I think that's a really cool micro brand again. Fun folks, founded by 3 guys named Francois, so they know high horology, in a $5,000 package. That's the nice thing about Reservoir watches. All right, jumping back into our regularly scheduled program, viewer wrist shots number 2, starting with Chris L. of Singapore. Chris L., shocking and amazing with his Ming Masena Lab. That is a great looking watch. Even more impressive that you actually got your hands on one. Abdul R of Germany, he's in the chat box right now in the Black Forest with his vintage Raketa Copernicus from Russia. Warren G, having fun behind the wheel of his Acura with the Casio GA2100 Cassiope. We've got Ramesh A. from my old neck of the woods, Syosset, New York. Syosset was one of the high schools where I went to debate tournaments, and he's having a great time with his Breitling Premier 40 and his Mercedes-Benz A220, respectively, his first luxury watch and his first luxury car. Well done, Ramesh. Maybe we can meet up when I'm back on Long Island. Itai F. and his vintage Rolex GMT Master 16700, the last of the true GMT Masters. Battle the heat in blazing Albuquerque, New Mexico, USA. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your analog on my digital. What else is going on here in the box? We got a friend joining in from Sweden. We've got Graham W. from Ireland staying up late with us. We've got Cosmic Child saying, I get a pre-Vacheron Corne de Vache chrono in steel and spend the rest in real estate. We got Enrique saying Dornbluth and Son, always a good option. And then we have right here Andrew G saying, rumor has it that Nautilus, the 320 euro one, was sold to a Patek dealer's son shortly prior to the dealer shutting down their stores. I'm not sure, but let's investigate. And then right here, Nicholas Flynn saying Grubel 4C for £100,000. Theoretically possible, I guess, if you're buying a used Balancier S sports watch in titanium. And then what else we have? We've got Saad joining in from Saudi Arabia, staying up so late at this point, he might be into the early hours of the morning. And then we've got Victor from Toronto, Canada, in the Great White North, up there with Emily. All right, let's see what's going on, folks. Watches you can't scratch. I was going to say you can't touch this, but you can touch them. You just can't leave a mark. Here's the thing. We're getting to the point among watch collectors where a lot of collectors are looking at watches that have had any polishing, any refinishing, any work on the case subsequent to manufacture, the same way car collectors look at automobiles that have salvage titles or rebuilt titles. Here in the United States, we have branded titles. If a car has been damaged significantly, that follows the car forever on its title. Now, I don't even touch a car if there's evidence of damage on the Carfax. That's something we have to investigate whether a car has obvious stuff like mismatched odometer, rollbacks, or physical damage that doesn't quite reach the level of a salvaged or rebuilt title. So if I see that, and yeah, the Bentley Brooklyns again, if I see that on a Carfax, I scram. Just like a lot of watch collectors will bolt if they see evidence of any refinishing on a luxury watch. The problem is, luxury watches tend to scratch quite easily. Unless you're dealing with a super hard material, scratches, which will happen on your platinum, gold, tantalum, steel, or titanium watch, or palladium, scratches will happen, and they are inevitable. They are part of the luxury watch ownership experience. I always like to say the first scratch makes two marks, one on your watch and one on your soul. But here's the thing. You're left with a binary choice. Do you refinish so it looks new, or do you leave it original but unsightly with all of the metal and original definition, but that scratch right on the Royal Oak bezel that's just going to drive you nuts? This is a tough choice to make. You want it gone, but you want all the original factory finish. How do you get around this choice? It's a big deal, and I know collectors absolutely wring their hands over this. So I'm going to give you options. Watches that do not require refinishing, because 99% of the time they are unscratchable. I'm not going to say indestructible. I'm not going to say they're always unscratchable, because I've seen everything damaged. But I am going to say in daily use, in normal use, even with a little bit of roughness and misfortune with a door frame, a car seatbelt buckle, or a doorknob, these watches will shake off the scratches and scuffs. Also, when you buy them used, you know because of their material composition, they cannot be refinished, so they will not have been refinished, saving you that awkward question and investigation when you buy any of these pre-owned. Starting with the Omega Gray Side of the Moon, part of the Moon Watch series, 44.25 millimeters in gray ceramic. This watch launched as the more, I would say, more developed and highly resolved, and even more alluring 2014 successor to the dark side of the moon. It has fun lume too, the full bezel and the crown insert. Now, this is the Omega I am most likely to buy. I love the gray side. If we go back to this picture, this is a watch that has it all going on. Not just a ceramic case that's both polished and satinated, but a wonderful matte platinum dial. That's right, the dial is made of platinum. The hands and indices are black and white gold, and it uses the Omega 9300 caliber, which is top of the line in terms of tech, spec, and precision. All of which is to say, this is the kind of watch you can wear every day, and if you're not the type to break a watch crystal, you're not going to chip or shatter ceramic. So if you're not the type to destroy sapphire crystals, don't worry about this material. You'll never put a mark on it. Now, this is technically a $12,000 watch new, but you know and I know it's an Omega. Options exist at and under $10,000. From first world vendors, you can buy this watch and get a great deal. Now, if you want something a little bit more striking, we're upping the ante. Now we're talking scarcity, but we're sticking with the Of the Moon series of ceramic watches in the 44.25mm case, the Apollo 8. Possibly the boldest watch, can we go full screen there? Possibly the boldest watch launched by anybody in 2018 with a full open dial and a laser ablated movement that looks like the lunar surface. It is the Apollo 8 Mission Tribute. All of that, and it's a modified moon watch caliber, not the standard 9300 you get in the gray side, the dark side, and the white side. So it is mechanically distinct, beautifully executed, completely unique, and already out of production. This is a watch that was never common, that was $9,750 new, and used prices reflect pretty much the same price it went for new, which is an extraordinary feat by an Omega because almost all of them depreciate. This one kinda doesn't. Also ceramic, beautifully made, and because we are talking luxury moon watches, not space-going moon watches, all of them have ceramic crystals to avoid scratches and scuffs. Let us jump straight in. Rick Golfman saying soft white underbelly. You know I've got to catch that. Of course, that's the original name of the Blue Oyster Cult. I'm not going to miss that. They went by other names too, and I know all of those back when they were just like a bar band on Long Island in the late 60s and early 1970s. And I'm summoning my Long Island accent to emphasize that. What else is going on right here? Kevin S. said we should have a blue side in honor of the Blue Oyster Cult. That's right, we should have the blue side of the moon, the moon phase version, the aventurine moon phase version in honor of Buck Dharma and Eric Bloom and the Blue Oyster Cult. We have a lot of friends in the box. Keep building. Let's try to get to 400 concurrent viewers. I'm not done with my list of scratch-resistant favorites. Indelible watches from Frankfurt. We have a German watch here that is not made in Glashütte, and perhaps even better for it, from the tool watch ethic of Sinn Spezialeren. This is the Sinn 900 Diapol, and it can lean against a lump of anthracite because it ain't gonna scratch. This watch does it all for $4,800. 44mm integument steel. It is both a chronograph and a GMT. It has a Diapol unlubricated, artificial diamond-coated escapement of Sinn's own manufacture that allows it to perform at a high degree of accuracy in between services, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. Diapol Sinns come with a half-decade warranty. It is 80,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetic, which is the equivalent of 1,000 Gauss, or mil-Gauss, so it is highly anti-magnetic. It is 200 meters water resistant. It is temperature resilient down to -45 degrees Celsius and plus 80 degrees Celsius. How high is that in Fahrenheit? It's so high you'll be dead either way, so don't trouble yourself. Plus, it has the tegment on the case and the bracelet, components that Sinn makes at SUG, its own manufacturer for case parts. Tegment works. When I want to impress upon friends just how scratch-resistant tegment is, I take out my watch, which is a Sinn EZM 1.1, and a key, and I do this. And if you don't think I'm pressing hard, I'm going to hold this right up to the mic. There will not be a mark on the side of that watch. I'm going to rub off the pieces of the key that get deposited on the side of the case. Not a damn mark. Nothing. Not a scratch. Not a dent. No evidence that the key was ever there. That is how real tegment is. And because it's metal, unlike ceramic, you can't chip it, you can't shatter it. Now, you can pay a pile of money to own the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Double Balance Open Worked in black ceramic, and who knows, if you're just trying to get your kicks and your budget's unlimited, maybe that's worth it to you. Or, and Wolfgang knows this well, you can buy a Girard-Perregaux Laureato skeleton ceramic, which retails for $41,500. Now this GP came out in 2018. It measures 42 millimeters and it features a gorgeous finish on a broad open dial. The finish here is hand executed. Warning, interior angles, it does have them. The beveling is gorgeous and a mile wide. Moreover, unlike the AP, this is both lumed and 100 meters water resistant, so it is a true automatic winding sports watch, rough and tumble on the outside in scratch resistant ceramic, hermetically sealed from the water on the inside, and it uses GP's upscale caliber 1800, which we don't see too often because it's a lot more expensive than the 3000 series, and it has a longer power reserve at 54 hours. And everybody knows that major discounts can always be had on pre-owned Girard-Perregaux. This one will show no marks, no evidence of age, and you can pick it up, well, frankly, in the high 20s if you look carefully. All of which is to say, this is the buy. Forget the Royal Oak. Get this and buy a condo and the Bentley. What else is going on right here? We have compliments from Neo. Neo, thank you so much. You are the chosen one in the Matrix. I appreciate your compliments. We've got MCC saying, stop scratching that key on your Zin before it won't open your door. That's a good point. I worry more for the sake of the key than I do for the watch. And then right here we have Jim M saying, I wish Zin would do a Tim Mosso SC. I'm holding out for it, guys. I'm trying. If you speak German and you can appeal to them in their native tongue, please make the case on my behalf. I've tried. They say this year they're celebrating their 60th anniversary, but we know there will be a 61st, and I'm willing to wait 7 months to do this. So Zin, please, I love you guys. I heart you. I buy a Zin for every member of my family plus my closest friends. Let's make this happen. Okay, jumping into the box, seeing what else is going on. We've got Enrique saying, hashtag and the Bentley, and Abdul noting astutely that that key will not work anymore. All right, we have a mention of Zenith from Benjamin B. We're going to talk about Zenith in a moment now. Let's talk about chronometry Fernan Berthoud. This is one of the haute horlogerie galacticos, the standouts, those that I describe as the absolute best. Top 5 finish in the industry globally. These guys are probably no worse than third. This is the FB1R6. Now, it's a watch that came out in 2018 as a regulator dial version of the 2016 GPHG Aiguille d'Or. That is, it was the overall winner in non-regulator dial fashion at the Oscars of watchmaking. The regulator dial is fun. It forces you to focus on your watch and pay attention, and has the world's coolest power reserve indicator. Much to love. Thanks to carburized steel, it's also as hard as a Zin's Tegment. It's the exact same process and the exact same material. This is a watch that is literally as hard as the Zin I just showed you, only it is a fusee and tourbillon. Now, this is a 44 millimeter watch. Don't be fooled. It's also a lugless case, which means it wears on the wrist like a 40 millimeter round watch, and you better believe we're getting close. It is all about fine finish at Grubel 4C levels or better. If Philippe Dufour made highly complicated watches, they would be finished like this, with a fusee and chain constant force device, and a tourbillon, and a power reserve, and an extended power reserve, and a marine chronometer style pillar movement. It's also COSC chronometer certified, making it one of the few put up or shut up high horology tourbillon watches to go into the COSC test and emerge with a certificate. And at $241,500 with only 20 pieces offered, few will have the chances to dazzle their dinner guests with key gouging exploits. This thing's the real deal. I love this watch. It's one of the few watches that have ever prompted me to think, maybe I really should empty the bank account for this. It's that good. Okay, jumping into the box, let's see what's going on right here. We have Enrique saying, this kind of imagery isn't allowed on YouTube, Tim. I know, that case back is a little bit salacious. Warning, watch porn. What else is going on? Rick Golfman saying, look at that. And I think you said it all, Rick. I can't do any better. Enrique saying, as good as it gets. And then we've got Watch Cardinal saying, the community wants a Rolex on Tim Mosso's wrist. Well, I've always said if I did it, it's going to be the Z Blue. I work for a Rolex retailer. I could easily make it happen. Maybe this is the year. But I need to hear back from Zin on that collaboration first. And then right here we have John N saying, I would buy that piece before a house. That's true. That's true. You can always get a tent for 40 bucks at Walmart. And you can take your tent on vacation with your watch. You can't take your house on vacation with your watch. Okay, what else is going on? We've got Burning Mr. B saying Zin Mosso, green dial, blue hands with sunglasses complications, or even like a navy blue dial, because I was in the Navy, and like these green highlights. Basically like this color combination. How cool would that be? All right, let's take a look at some of yours on mine. Mikhail proves you don't need AP to go offshore with his Breitling Super Ocean Heritage Special Edition. Max L is on the set for the morning news with his SUF 180 by Stepan Sarpaneva. Joe T and his Seiko Turtle report from the peerless splendor of New York's Niagara Falls. Philip from Germany shares his Nomos and the pair he bought for his parents. You're a good man. I did the same for my parents with Zin. And Sean B. of Texas shreds the pavement with American muscle and Watchbox bought Swiss precision in his Camaro SS. Looking good. Thanks for trusting our company. All right, wrist shots. You want them here? Your wrist on my list. Send your watch to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Now, let's talk watches a little bit. This has to come up. Allow me to offer a quick thought. What happened to the Zenith Day-Fi Inventor? I went on Zenith's website and I searched for Day-Fi Inventor. And as you could see, I got 0 results. The watch is not there. All evidence of it, with the exception of a few pieces of the silicon oscillator, have been scraped from Zenith's website. Remember the silicon-based super watch? We first saw it as the Day-Fi Lab in 10 pieces for 2017, and then in regular production with over 129,000 vibrations per hour for 2019. They said it was Time Lab certified. The problem, a lot of folks said they asked for the certification and Zenith couldn't provide it. Some went back to the factory and never reappeared. They never returned to their owners. And now Zenith isn't even advertising the watch anymore. So I have reached out to Zenith asking basically what's up. I'm going to give them a chance to respond before I speculate. All I'm going to say here is interested parties, many. Facts, very few. No one seems to know what's going on. And I have a feeling that the folks in this chat box on this show are probably the most interested in knowing what's going to happen to this watch and if it will ever be offered again. But here's the other thing. Frédéric Constant is moving forward. They're on track to release the very same tech for under $5,000 US in their steel version of the slimline monolithic manufacturer. So the clock is ticking if Zenith wants exclusivity to this tech on the market for a little bit, because Frédéric Constant, as far as we know, is going to make this happen very soon. Jumping into the box, we got Time Hill saying, I'm sorry I'm late, but I will watch the video. That is okay. I value everyone who watches, whether live or delayed. Not everyone's schedule lines up with the broadcast. And then we have a little note. I forgot to mention Richard Mille among the overhyped watches, and you are indubitably correct about that. We could do a whole show about things, including cars, and maybe even aircraft you could buy instead of an RM chronograph. We have Joe Tyson saying, thanks for showing my wrist shot. I do my best, guys. I probably get about 100 wrist shots for every 20 I'm able to show. So I deeply regret that. I do my best to mix it up, to not show too many existing customers, not repeat too many watches, not to show too many expensive watches, to show some affordable watches, not to show too many Rolexes. It is very tough to choose. And I do my best on this show because I like it to be interactive. 150 Turtle saying, looking like Frédéric Constant is drawing inspiration from Breguet. Long have they done this. It is not new. This is something they've been doing forever. If you have a new and relatively anonymous brand, draw from something that's relatively well known. And of course, Frédéric Constant was founded in the 80s by 2 people from Holland, so it doesn't have a whole lot of real history. And then right here, we've got Thomas Burnett saying, hello there, buddy, greeting our other audience members. And then we've got Abdul R, what do you think about the GP Laureato Perpetual Calendar? It looks really cool and 100 meters water resistant. Again, as with other GPs, this is a watch you're going to want to buy pre-owned, but I like it. I think it's different, it's fun, it's versatile, and the price used is right. It's also an all-timer since the first Laureato came out in 1975, smack dab between things like the Vacheron 222, the Ingenieur SL, and the Nautilus, and then the original Rolex 5100 and the Royal Oak 5402 by Gerald Genta. So you've got all of these integrated bracelet sports watches from the 70s, and the Laureato reference 4266 came out in 1975, right in the middle of that group. So it's an original. I like the Perpetual Calendar. Only you can tell me whether you like the asymmetrical dial of that watch. And then right here we've got a Y saying, "Hi Tim, I love the show. I really enjoy the fact that you're focused on excellent watches and not brands only. I do my best. I like to shout out excellence in product rather than just crowing about the same brands everyone talks about, mostly because I don't just love Rolex, AP, Patek, and Journe exclusively. I like a lot of the weird stuff like Zenith, IWCs that aren't pilot watches or Portuguese, and of course smaller brands from independent manufacturers." We got a question here from Mikhail. What would you, not considering price, what would you choose between a black Santos or a black base ceramic? I would probably go with the black base ceramic because as tough as Cartier DLC is, eventually you're going to scratch the black Santos and then it just won't be as cool. So while I think the Santos is the better overall product, I think the black base is going to look better for longer. All right. And finally, I asked, you answered. Some great wrist shots starting with David H., who pegs the meter with his unbelievable vintage Blancpain 50 Fathoms Aqualung. Stop the presses, you just won the show. Ken H. shares his Watchbox bought Omega Seamaster GMT at the pool in Florida. Used to be is at the wheel of his Lexus NX with Zin 856B edition, which I adore. And by the way, Ken H., I forgot to tell you, thank you for trusting our company. Used, thank you for your wheels and watch shot with one of my favorite Zin models. Eric R. is the king of the air and of the pool with his Rolex Air King on a blue rubber strap. And Ed K. and his Grand Seiko Spring Drive take us home in the electric high-performance Porsche Taycan 4S. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Thanks to Sean, the man off screen who makes the pixels happen. And of course, comment and subscribe and visit me on my Facebook group, Talking Time with Tim Mosso. Thanks to all of you in the box, the best audience on YouTube. Time out, Tim out. Thanks for logging on.